Okay, in this lesson, we're going to show you how to combine two different Photoshop files together. I've got, for demonstration purposes, an old O3 start file that I used to use and a clock file from some old Photoshop assignments. Once we get those two opened up, and you can open up any files you want to play along with, you might notice you only see one of the files at a time. By default, they're arranged in tabs up here. If you go to the word Window and go down to Arrange, you can try out some different options. I like the tile to a vertical or horizontal, but just give that a quick little test to see what you get, because you might, as you grow in Photoshop, have a lot of different arrangements and files open at the same time. So let me go ahead and go back to one of these here, and here's our next plan. We're going to try to combine layers together. So let me get my layers back, my layers window that is. Here's the layers window. And so I happen to be on the clock file. This is the one I'm currently using. Well, we want to basically show you how to combine those two files together. There's about 3 different ways to do it, so I'll show you all 3. The easiest way, I think, if you see that layer that's right here for that particular file, I can take that layer and I can drag it onto the other project. So now it's a layer on the other project. Let me undo it. So I'm going to do Command Z or Edit Undo. You might be a PC person, so that could be Control Z. But let me undo it so I can try that again. So mainly just click and drag across. You can also, if you're in the Move tool, this entire layer, I can click on the entire layer and drag that down as well, and that should also basically accomplish the same goal. All right, let me undo that one. I'll show you one more idea. One more idea would be to try the Select All. So let me go back to the right file, Select All. I'll get the marching ants around everything, and then your normal Edit Copy, Edit Paste trick is a good one. So Command C, switch to the other file, Command V, or Edit Paste, and we're in pretty good shape. Let me hide that screen there for a second, and I might have to bounce back there. Photoshop, there we go. All right, so now that we've gotten that far, that's kind of the beginning goal for this assignment in this particular lesson, combining multiple files together. So once we've done that one, we can go ahead and close down the clock file, close that layer down, and now we're ready to move on. I'm going to go ahead and okay, our next little step is to move on and show you a couple reminder things that you might already know, but I'm going to switch over to the Magic Wand tool. I'm using CC 2019 on this particular computer, so I'm going to Magic Wand the white background from this layer. That was the original clock layer when we drug it over. It had that white background. You might commonly see that as JPEGs that have already been saved that way. It'll put a white background behind it. But let me go ahead and select it, hit delete, and that wiped out the white only. So let me repeat that in case that means a repeat. I'm going to undo that last step. So I'd use the Magic Wand to select just the white area. Let me try that again. Deselect, Command D, and then I'll click one time, and then I'll hit the delete key on the keyboard. All right, that worked out. You can select, deselect from there. And now, as a reminder of some of the most common things you do in Photoshop, I'm going to do an Edit Free Transform and then show you how to do 3 major things. That tool will do a lot. But we can resize right, you can also rotate, and you can move. So those are 3 common things you'll do pretty regularly. So let's do those 3 ideas. And then the next thing I want to show you real quick, I don't use this very often, but some tools will have a blending mode that might come into play. And I'm still on this layer, right? But look under here where I have a normal. That normal description is for what's called a blending mode. Pretty common filters instead of these kind of ideas, but on occasion you might find some of your brushes and other things we'll teach you down the road might end up having a blending mode attached to it. So I just want to point that out, but odds are you probably won't end up using those. For this particular lesson practice, we're going to put it on screen just so you can kind of get the idea a little bit. But we just rotated, resized, and moved it down there. Okay, so that's good to go. Okay, the next idea we're going to work on, we're going to try to put a brand new layer on this particular project. So to do that, we're going to go up to the word layer and drop down to New and over to Layer. So in my mind, I try to think of that as like a clear piece of plastic. And for the lesson, we're going to teach you something called gradients. So I'll type in gradients, and that's what we're going to put on that. We're going to do some gradient practice and experimentation. But that just names the layer. If I turn it on and off, it doesn't really change anything. But let's go make sure that's the active or selected layer, and then we're going to start talking about this particular tool, the gradient tool. So let me go ahead and go back and set it how it normally is. The first option is usually going to use the foreground to background. And I have some pretty bad color combinations here. Let's change those around a little bit. So here's my foreground and my background color picker. So you can make some better color combinations. Let me try maybe a red or orange. And then for the background, you know, user choice, whatever you like. We're just going to practice for a second. So I have an orange going to yellow type color scheme here. Again, if you click on that, that'll show you that usually the very first one is going to be foreground to background. There you go. So let's try that one out. And you got a couple different ways you can use that. So I like to use the linear and radial options for those. So let's try linear. That's going to work by clicking and dragging across your screen. And where you click, it's going to start the primary color or the foreground color, and it's going to end in that background color. So you can try again, just click in another spot and drag a different direction, and you'll get a feel for how this is going to work out. But you'll click and drag, and if you want to try the other options, you can up here. Here's one that is radial. And I'm not undoing, it'll wipe out everything on that layer. If you have a selection made, it would allow you to only affect that one area. But let me go ahead and kind of just do a couple more experiments, kind of show you how that works. And then we're going to go back and use the real one we're going to use is linear, so that'll go in line patterns. And what I want to try to actually get on this one is I want to get a little bit of purple to add like a color cast over my keyboard. So let me go ahead and delete everything on this layer. We're going to do that by select all. And then I have everything on that layer selected, so I can just hit delete on my keyboard. So we don't have to throw the layer away, we can just kind of empty the contents of that layer out. Alright, now that we've got that, let's try to get really what we want on this particular section of the lesson. I'm going to try to pick a nice purple here. You can pick any purple you want. And then I'm going to have it go, instead of purple to the background color, I'm going to click on this and go purple to transparent. That's the second option. So now I can click and drag on the right hand side and drag to my left, and it'll put this purple cast over it. Now if that's too strong, I could have dropped this down for the opacity so it's a little more see-through from the beginning, or for this particular lesson, it's common to go back to the layers window and show you how to change the opacity. We're just going to put a slight color haze over it just to give it a little more artistic flair, and that's our main goal. And again, you guys can back up the video to watch that step again if you need to. But we'll do a little purple going to transparent. Alright, good deal. Let's stop right there. Okay, let's try editing these layer styles. So here's our text that we put in there, and I attached one of these styles here, right? So you can try those out. And then here's the new deal. If you double click on that, normally we would have a whole list of other styles that are already available for us. So if you want to see the traditional bank of styles under effects, if you go down to reset to default list, it should show you all these other ones, and so you can kind of experiment a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and reset it to the default list, and then one by one you can go through there and see what you like. Let's see, I had originally typed this text as a purple text. Again, if I want to change the basic color, let's go to that one, and once you have that one selected, you can then change that color to whatever you want. But this will let you kind of stack together a combination of different styles or effects. I like the glow ones a lot, so let's see, here's outer glow. It's got the same white that I tend to like, and you can't quite see as much, but you can see there's a size and spread. So you might change those and see if you can get it to show up a little bit bigger, kind of maybe what you were thinking. Let me see what else we have on here. It's pretty close to what I was thinking. Let me change this blending mode here back to normal, so it might be a little bit stronger, and then opacity. Yeah, I can make it a little bit stronger. Yeah, there's a lot of new options in here that are new for 2019 and 2021. But that's pretty much the same basic idea. I think you can kind of change the stacking order, but let me go ahead and turn this one off and try a gradient perhaps, and let's see what we can do with gradient. So same story, you can find different color gradients that are already pre-built. And one more that's probably worth showing you guys is an outline or a stroke. So you can make some pretty good combinations with a good fill or inside part. And then the outside part or the stroke, normally white or black and a couple pixels wide. I would say anywhere between 1 and 3 pixels depending on the size. So black isn't looking that great. I already have a white background, so let me just try something completely different. But I do tend to like white or black as the most common ones. And that might be a little bit too thick in that example. Alright, so that's a pretty good way to kind of make custom styles, and if you make one that you really like, you can just drop that off in the styles window. This little paint bucket will show up. If you click in there, that'll save that new style. Here's your reference. Alright, there you go. And that is the end of this lesson. Hopefully you use this in your next project.